You get boards filled your own.
Oh, well. So
That ship just sailed.
C'est la vie.
Yeah.
Can I dress up like Wonder Woman and stroll around with my hair? Get your library card here.
I'm just gonna say we're fine.
Did you see that the next Black Mother is gonna be a woman?
No.
Since we lost our dear Chadwick. There's everybody. Hello. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
Hello. Ooh, Jim has Superman background.
Hey, Nancy.
Like your Superman background.
Thank you.
Can you do those things?
Yeah.
Are we just waiting for Patty?
Hold on.
I think so.
I'm going to.
Can we, since we don't have to vote on anything right now, can we just kind of go ahead and get started?
Yeah, we're just getting our technic.
I gotta get on Facebook. You just click Facebook. Close. See.
I did, because it doesn't matter. I'm worrying about
Okay.
just us. There we go. Come on. There we go. What happened there?
Thank you.
I think just click once on the second
Here, I know.
Zoom camera.
There. All right.
I've got everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got everybody. Okay.
Everyone's here.
Okay, we'll start with the personnel minutes. Does anybody have any corrections or comments to the personnel minutes from August 3rd? No comments. Then we'll move to a memo that Nancy has regarding changes to staffing for the last quarter of 2020.
Okay, I hope you all had a great Labor Day. The weather was good until it wasn't, just like everything else in 2020. So we are going to be increasing the hours of a number of our staff members to accommodate getting ready to open. We're bringing the HKIC staff up from 50% of their regular time to 80% of their regular hours. They are also down 4 staff members by attrition, so they really need the bump. Reference and circulation staffing is being increased from 50 to 80% starting September 15th. Circulation staffing is down 2 full-time and 1 part-time person, and reference is down 3 full-time and 2 part-time positions. We are working on also calling back 8 pages, and they'll be asked to work 20 hours a week. And Lori, the deadline for that is tomorrow, and Lori's gotten a lot of interest from that, so we're optimistic that we'll get them back and working. And our total open hours are now 60% of where we were before the pandemic. So this pretty much aligns with where we are. And it gives us a little bit of stretch if we need to bring the full-timers up. We've got a little bit of room still if we need to accommodate a huge flood of people coming back to see us when we reopen. So we hope that will happen. I'd also like to, Debbie's going to be giving you an update on the budget in a few minutes. And I would like you to consider restoring the managers to their salaries, which were cut by 10% in May? In June. So once she talks about the budget, we can circle back to that and we'll discuss it more. And then we also want you to know that we are getting supplemented by our Shared Work Ohio, so we're not paying all of the unemployment, which is very good. The PLF is not as low as we predicted, which is also very good, although it's probably gonna hit next year. And I just want to commend the managers for being extraordinarily flexible with all of the changes we've made, and they are still working full time. So we hope that we can bring them back up as I outlined.
Any questions, comments? Okay, we'll go to the Operations Committee. Any questions or corrections on the minutes from the Operations Committee meeting on August 3rd? Okay, a couple of different items for approval at the board meeting. The first item is to approve 27 payrolls in 2020. Technically, we were looking at there would be 27 pays in 2021 instead of the usual 26 of every other week, but the first pay in 2021 would have been on January 1st. And we didn't think about it until a month or so ago that technically the banks are closed on January 1st, which also means then that we can't do ACH transmissions. So we need to do payroll on the 31st of December, which then shifts it into being a 2020 payroll and all of that. Nothing of any financial note other than technically about every 7 years, we have to do an extra payroll to catch up with the every other week on 52 weeks. So any questions on that one? The next one is a package deal between carpet and moving. Nancy, would you like to cover what that one's about?
When we were preparing the master plan, one of the drivers was the fact that
Wow.
we are not, what? Oh, okay. One of the drivers is that we really need to replace the carpet here at Lee Road. If you walk around, you'll see that it is badly worn in a number of areas. And we decided that this time around, we will not do any broadloom, we'll do all carpet squares so that it's easy to replace them. And also if we end up moving any furniture around later on, it's easier to do it when you have carpet squares. So we had our regular carpet man come out and give us an estimate, and he gave us 2 different pricing levels. And we also have to have movers kind of follow them around and move furniture out of the way as they go. So they'll do it in stages. They'll do one area at a time. They'll do it when we're not open, so people shouldn't really notice too much except that the carpet changes. And we're going to use very, very, I'd say middle of the road colors, very, very similar to what we have now. It's actually, most of it's going to be the color of the meeting room carpet in the hallway between A, B, and C. And so you can see what that looks like. It's brown with a lot of flecks of other colors in it. And on the HK side, we're going to use the blue that is on the bridge that runs on the south side of the bridge. So the 2 different sides of the building will have 2 different colors, but they'll be very neutral. And the prices are very competitive.
Well, one wasn't. We got 2 different bids from Continental Office and Messina, and they both, I think one of them was state bid pricing and the other was through the Sourcing Alliance. And Messina, they bid for the HPIC 42,000 and the other company was 52,000. And then for the main floor, Messina bid 189 and the other company bid 245. So that's not much of a, yeah, not very close there. And then the mover will be contracted to lift up shelves and kind of move furniture around.
They're a specialty library moving company. So I've used them at Rocky River, I've used them here, we've used them.
They moved all the books out of UH and stored them while we were doing our construction, and when they brought them
And
in.
they did Noble too. It's just, that's their thing that they do best, so.
They're in a niche market.
Right.
Which company is that?
Oregon Moving,
They used to be called. Just went out of my head. They used to have a person's name,
Dan something, wasn't
no. But anyway, Howard, the movers are the same people, so, all over Northeast Ohio, they're the ones that libraries use. It'll come to me in a second if you just give me a minute.
it?
I'm having a COVID moment.
Okay, you can keep going, just let me know, I just want to say.
But
Okay,
the current one is Corrigan, and they're out of Youngstown.
okay, next item, this one is a nice one. We're approving a new fund and appropriations that we were notified that the state was releasing CARES Act money to local libraries, and they're allocating $25,000 to every library building, so we are.
Carney McNicholas was the old company. Just took me a minute, sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. So with 4 buildings, we're getting $100,000. So I've got kind of an all-encompassing resolution to create a new fund because the money has to be segregated, and then to do the appropriations of the $100,000. Basically, the nice part of this one, it's retroactive to March 1st. So we've already spent over $50,000 in PPE and streaming services and a tutor program, and anything that we've done between March and now, I can do an expense transfer out of the general fund to the grant, and that will count. And even something like,
Door locks.
door locks, the tutor.com, even though it's a year-long contract for it from the time we signed until December 31st. It's there. All the money has to be spent by December 31st, and we don't have any difficulty in figuring out with that. We're in a good place now with most of our PPE supplies, but we will look at ordering, backup thermometers now that they're cheaper and more available, and if we need them next year. And
Yeah, it's
gloves
about
and
to
masks.
order a whole bunch more of those bags to cover the
Right, right.
computers, and so
Right.
it'll all be, that is really nice, that helps our budget quite a bit.
Right. Any questions on that? Next item is a resolution to void outstanding checks from 2018 and 19. As of the 1st of August, I have $1,591.72 in checks that were issued in 18 and 19 to different people that were either they returned a book that they paid for as lost, or all kinds of different things. I think it was less than 15 checks, and we contact people and they haven't cashed the check and they haven't gotten back to us. So that money, those checks are reconciled, and the money goes into a segregated fund called unclaimed funds. And if anybody finds the check, the money still has to sit there for 5 years before I can transfer it back into general funds. So that's waiting for them there. The next page I have is a comparison of revenues and expenditures from this August to last August. And I wish we could share the screen to show it to you, but basically what I'm looking at is last year our revenues in August were 10.6 million, and in this August it was 8.7 million, which is a $1.8 million drop. However, I wanted to segregate, there was a timing issue here that by last August, we had already finished the property settlement for the second half of the year and the tax rollbacks. So that's in last August numbers. So I segregated and looked at what are the non-tax revenues from this year to last year. And those numbers are down by $190,000. And a lot of that is no passports, no meeting fees, the copiers and things like that. So that's really not too bad. But then when I went and looked at taking the year-to-date total, adjusting for the timing of tax settlements, as of for the second half taxes of 2019 that we got in August of last year, it was 2.19 million. If I take that away from the 10.6 in total, that would mean that last year's adjusted revenue was 8.45 million. And technically, because PLF hasn't substantially dropped yet, we're still 299,000 in taxes above. So I'm very comfortable with the way the money's looking now. I do think when we go to do our budgets, which will be starting next week for 2021, we're still not going to have meeting room fees. I'll present at the September board meeting an investment report for our meter account, and that still will probably be about $100,000 a year in investment income, but it's just dropping like nothing. So, and then the other news is if you look at expenditures from this year to last year, we spent $847,000 less this August than we did last August. So our budget cuts have taken effect and our revenue hasn't dropped as substantially as we thought it might with the taxes and that. I still won't know until probably October where we stand with the property taxes, but right now it's looking pretty good. The one item, even the estimates for the public library fund are still coming in above the last 2 months. The actual cash we got was higher than what the state had estimated in that. So, but like Nancy and I both said, we anticipate next year it'll be going down because all the people that haven't been working between March and December, when they go to pay their income tax next April, it's going to be significantly down. So that's where we're going to have to look at reining that in. Does anybody have any questions on this analysis?
No, that's a great summary, Debbie. Really appreciate it. It's very helpful.
Anybody else?
I have a question, just as we look to the budget for next year. Is there any circumstance where we would look at some sort of scenario planning, or do you think we would be just looking at one budget that we're planning for?
We're probably gonna just have one. What I'm asking the staff to do is to plan for 20% cut from January of 2020. So forget all the changes we made during the year this year, go back to where we started and cut 20% there. And I think with some of the savings we'll get from this year, plus a 20% cut, that should hopefully weather most of next year. We can always adjust as we go a little bit too. I did write in my report that last year we did suspend raises. In July, we did not give raises. So if it looks better than we thought, I'd like to squeeze those back in somewhere for everyone. But we're still not working at 100% of our hours either. So I think Debbie and I have to put our sharpened pencil to some of this and figure out where we can tweak it to get people as close to where they should be as possible without going over.
Anything else? Okay, service and admin policies. Nancy, you want to review what you've done with that?
One more thing, that the carpet replacement is coming out of the B&R fund.
Right.
So it's not the general revenue fund. So that doesn't affect all of this.
Right. Oh, and another thing is we took out of this year's budget any money to transfer into the building and repair fund or the technology fund. We did give the building and repair fund $4 million at the end of last year. They're not getting any this year. And because we've scaled back because of COVID, so many plans to make renovations in that, I don't know that in 2021 we'll be giving any money. So there's typically $400,000 that has been committed to those two funds every year that we probably can do without next year in order to fund bringing more staff back and hours and salaries and that.
So in the service and administration policies, I think, again, I'm having such a hard time formatting this document. It keeps sending it back to other type fonts and moving periods around and things. So I apologize for those small string discrepancies, but the changes are basically due to COVID and also the Peace Park. So on page 27, we just said Peace Park guidelines can be found in Appendix 7. And then Appendix 7 has been changed to include all of those, and we shared them with you last month. And then we also added, I took all the pandemic information and made it into its own appendix. So it's all in one place pretty much. And those were that's the substantive changes that we made that aren't just grammatical. And then also, I think in the Peace Park, I said that the concealed carry law does not apply to the Peace Park. So people have to be allowed to carry, and we went to the county prosecutor to make sure, because one of our gun-toting friends reminded me that I have to take the sign down that says you cannot carry a gun here because it's not a school anymore. And we went back and forth for about 6 months, and he is right. So we'll take the sign down, but in our Peace Park guidelines, we said no weapons. So it's not a Ohio revised code anymore, but it's our policy. So we'll just see where that goes. Next month, I will have the material evaluation and selection policy, and then the final policy will be the board bylaws. So we'll get those all in before the end of the year.
Any questions or comments? The last item in operations is amending the budget for the Washington Boulevard Coventry School. Again, as you know, with our LOI we've agreed to with the tenants, we will continue for at least one more year to pay utilities. And when we did it at the beginning of the year, the budget, we were looking at being done with it in June. And then through negotiations, we thought we'd be done with them at the end of September. And now it looks like with the new lease that we will continue paying the utilities through at least the end of September in 2021. So I need to amend the budget to continue for another 3 months of the year. And I also had to put in money that the Cleveland Teachers Union overpaid on their rent. So I had to add another line item in there to refund them the rent miscalculation on their part that they did from January through August. Any questions? Okay, planning and external relations minutes. Anybody have any questions, comments, corrections? Okay, mid-year update on strategic plan.
Yes. So for all of you to take a look, even though this has been the most abnormal year, we did not want to give up on accomplishing goals for the strategic plan. What has happened in the last few months, though, is that a lot of staff members revised their goals to find things that were accomplishable. And so there was a lot of changing of goals. So what we did sometime in July, was all the managers wrote to me with goals that have been accomplished up through about halfway through the year. So this is not through August, it's really through July of the things that have been accomplished by staff members and what area of the strategic plan they fell into. So I will do an end of the year report as well, which will have everything. But we just wanted the public and we wanted the board to know that we haven't forgotten about our strategic plan. It's still extremely important to us. And most of the things that have been accomplished fall into the third area, which is be proactive and facilitate communication and be a bridge builder for community concerns. And that has really been extremely important during the time that we were closed, and now even during this time of being open a limited amount of time. So we had things like all of the Facebook story times. We had 47 that I reported on, and that was through July. We're gonna have a lot more to report on because our youth services staff have continued to do so. So there'll be even more things to report on, but it gives you a sense of what those staff worked on while we were closed and then while we reopened in the beginning of June. It's for you to take a look at. If you have any questions, you don't have to ask me them tonight. You can ask me at any time, email me, or ask at the board meeting. Anything I can answer for anybody right now?
I want to commend the staff again. You're going to get your check us out in your mailbox this week, and you will see how clever they were to come up with some programming outdoors, to also offer virtual programs, and considering that the pandemic is still ongoing, we really filled out our calendar Plus, we are working with the school district to continue to support students in any way we can. So I'm pretty impressed with how they pivoted so well and how they're keeping the schedule full.
And we'll have even more to discuss as we get ready to reopen browsing and open up limited computer use to the public in just next week.
And the sorter's coming a week
Also
from
next week.
today. Woo!
Okay, the next item I had, I wanted to give you a quick update verbally. There's no paperwork on it. I mentioned, I think a month and a half ago, that the city was interested in trying to get grants from the county for charging stations for electric cars, and they thought our University Heights branch would be a good location for it. And I was working with the city, and the grant is only for $15,000, and the information they sent me on the chargers, like the charger itself, was only $7,000, but then you had to pay for cabling and internet. And I said, what would be the total package? And the city development director there was kind enough to get the low bidder out there to look at the site and tell us. And he said, well, to install it, it would be $20,000 to $25,000 for the installation. And that didn't take into account whether or not we needed to get a dedicated internet line, a new, I think that included the electric for it, but we'd have to have a credit card processor to work through it and that. So I just told them that we were interested in the concept, but financially at this point in time, we're not ready to commit 25,000 plus when we're still cutting our budget. So I told them that we'd like to work with them on other grants in the future, and we ended amicably on it, but and they perfectly understood that, you know, looking at the cost of 25,000 isn't really affordable for any of us. And they were also talking with John Carroll about it, and that fell through. So there are only 10 grants available within Cuyahoga County for the $15,000. So we would have been a long shot, I think, to begin with for it. So the next thing is an update on.
I have a question, Deb.
Sure.
Okay, so you're stating that, and I hear everything you're saying, but should we consider this more strongly in reference to the pandemic and how many businesses have moved to a non-monetary exchange, and what could be forthcoming as we head into the new flu season? So end of the year, you know, November through January, February, March. Well, they say October you should get the flu shot in the 6 months, is, you know, but the true blue flu season. So I'm just wondering, should we reconsider it? I'm curious to what the other board members think.
Well, and we take credit cards within our buildings for services. This is that electric charging station for, like, somebody's plugging in their Tesla car for 4 hours. They would have to use a credit card for that, which probably is not the same credit card provider that's tied into our circulation system and all that. It's not really the credit card processor that's stopping us from wanting to move forward. It's the fact that we get a grant for $15,000 and then we might have to spend $15,000. And the one thing that, when I was talking with them a little bit more about it, the cheapest model that they had bids on, it could take anywhere from an hour to 4 hours to charge a car. And then the top of the line models that would only need like a half hour to charge a car, they were $45,000 for the charging unit. So it's more of, it'd be a nice service to provide to people in the community, but they would have to pay for the charging services and electricity, but then we'd have to pay additional costs to even get it up and running that we wouldn't be able to recoup from people that would want to sit there and charge their car for 3 hours at that. But we're cashless right now in our buildings, that people can put quarters and dimes in our copying machines, but we're not accepting cash at any of the circulation desks in order to keep us cashless and protect people during this time period.
Okay, thank you for further explaining that. I appreciate it.
Not a problem.
Can I just add, my partner has a Tesla, and I'll say that there is a very, very large gap between what is available for charging, and that would be probably the higher end, because charging on a trip is between 20 and 40 minutes, never takes hours, ever. But there's an opportunity later, I would say. And there is no credit card transaction that happens, at least with the Tesla chargers, it's all on the app. So I just wanted to correct a few things that maybe we can pin for another time. But I feel like within the community, if somebody wants to throw more money at it, I know that there's a ton of drivers that would love to be able to stay local and not have to go either. Even the Tesla dealership doesn't have a charger, which is criminal, but you have to go down to Macedonia. So anyway, just 2 cents.
So Patty, do you think that maybe we could get a third party in to help us offset the cost?
I think it's worth thinking about, because I know Tesla is talking about trying to get like chargers downtown, but there is nothing yet. There is almost
The only
nothing.
Tesla dealer I know is on Mayfield Road,
Right, yep.
which isn't really that far away.
But what I'm saying is they don't have a charger.
I know, but do you think they would spend $15,000 to help us get one?
I don't know. I mean, I mostly just wanted to correct the record as far as like,
Okay.
you literally drive up, you
Are
plug
they-
in, and then, go ahead.
If the charging station's on my property and I have the electric bill for it, and somebody uses an app, that's still gotta have the money come to us then, rather than it's not gonna go to the company that owns the charging station. We would be the ones paying for it.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, I can do a little investigation just on how that works, because I know from sitting in a Tesla when we're traveling, it's a lot of hotel parking lots. It'll sometimes be like a Target or a larger like mall parking lot. So I can kind of see like what's the shared, like what's the value? Like, I mean, I know whenever we stop, it's like, oh, let's go use a bathroom inside the hotel. So if you don't want people coming in that are just passing through, versus you're not going to get people passing through in the Heights. Like there's no highways. It's going to be local community.
Local people, right.
But anyway, if you have questions, I'd be happy to kind of research what I can, just so we can kind of.
Okay.
I think we would need a third party to help us offset it, but maybe that wouldn't be so hard. I don't know.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
might be worth trying.
Well, the grant application is due September 30th, so
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
if we can
and
get it
you know what?
going, but in the future,
Mr. Zach at the city should be doing the homework
right,
to help us
right.
too, right? So it would be nice if
I could write him an email and ask him if there's
Yeah,
anyone that he
yeah.
knows. Okay, I will do that.
And then I have a question too. I'm not too familiar with electric cars and how they're charged, but Patty, the stuff that you're talking about with the Tesla, I mean, can you use that for other electric cars? Or is there kind of a uniform or universal kind of charging station, or is
Right,
it
and
only available then for Teslas?
Yeah, that I don't know, because whenever we've ever gone to the Tesla, it's only Tesla's charging. But I know that it's almost like a universal remote versus are you stuck with what you have? So that would be
Right.
the question. Yeah.
The bids weren't for a specific car, it was like a universal one. It wasn't
Okay.
just for Tesla.
I think it's something that's coming, so
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, I don't know. Let's find out if we can find somebody who can help us pay for it.
Okay,
Because we don't mind giving up the land, the parking spot, and it's kind of cool and it gives us a vibe, that's good, but we should get it paid for.
right, okay. Peace Park.
Okay, so, I can't even talk about this anymore. So I am holding the signed LOI, that was signed by, Deanna Bremer Fisher, and yeah, woohoo, so many tears, so many hours. And we are now working on the lease, and, Anthony's got all the information he needs, so he's just banging away, and we should have it, I hope, something to show them within a week. And, hopefully we can turn it around so it's all done by September 30th. There was another article today or last night in the Cleveland.com, the reporter caught up with Deanna, and nothing of substance, just the same kind of stuff, but it was still nice to get good publicity out of it, and we hope that it will all happen smoothly. And I hope to report to you by the board meeting that we're on our way.
Thank you.
Noble.
Okay, so, we have been approached by an organization called Welcome House, They have met with the city and they were interested in a parcel of land at Greenwood and Noble, in the Noble neighborhood that we were also interested in as a possible site for a future expanded one-story Noble branch. And they came to us with the idea that perhaps the library could be on the first floor and the senior housing could be on 2 floors above it. And I sent you his email. He hasn't really talked turkey with his board yet. We're just in the idea stage. So I did want to have a discussion about whether you thought it was worth pursuing. Pros and cons. We like to be in control of our own building, but it could save us a lot of upfront money for sure. Even after 20 years, it would not cost as much as a full-on new building. And I think another pro is that we have this built-in audience of seniors who we would like to serve. There are going to be a number of units that are also there for developmentally disabled adults. And again, we would welcome them into the library. Some of the space that we would be allocated would have to be for storage because there is no basement on this idea. They are talking to the city about doing parking on the site, but also across the street where the salt storage is right now, that they would have overflow parking across the street. So hopefully, certainly more parking spots than we're used to, but people would be coming and going as they visited their friends or their loved ones in the building, and then I don't know who has cars and who doesn't, so we have to figure that out. It's also only about a block and a half away from the current school, so children could walk there after school, and we could certainly accommodate them much better in a building that looked more like UH than the beautiful but outdated building that is Noble. We could have modern facilities like HVAC and things that we are trying to improve right now here at Lee Road for the pandemic. It could be light filled and full of windows like UH.
Better sight lines.
Better sight lines for looking at people. We wouldn't need an elevator. We could have, a set of bathrooms that serves everyone in one place. There would be a lot less duplication. No stairwells, no hallways, no elevator shafts. So a lot of room would be used more productively than the building we have now. The only thing I promised is that I would talk to you and then we could look into real details at another date and perhaps have them come and talk to you.
I'm very curious to see, like, I'm open to look at any kind of plan that anybody's going to bring. And I know that, there's been some discussion about the Noble branch for a while. And as somebody who uses that branch primarily, just what I'm thinking of is that I know, like, leading up to this, it was the space in the building, that it's just been built out as much as we can build out, and the parking were the two major things. So I guess my first question would be, what would the square footage, what usable square footage do we have right now versus what we have in this other building?
It's about 11,000 now, and we're hoping to get close to 20 in the new building. But
Great.
Some of that would be storage.
Right. And then the parking is the obvious, and again, that I understand that's kind of unknown at this point, because
Right.
we'd probably have to get somewhat invested in this process before we know what kind of parking would be made available exclusively to the library.
Right.
And then I think the last question that I had, or the last concern that I have, I guess, is that I know that it is very close to where the current Noble branch is. But I know that we do a lot. There's a lot of services and a lot of, classes and other cultural events with the Nepali community that's very nearby to that branch. And I just want to make sure that, we kind of engage the community around it a little bit too, to make sure that they're comfortable, because even though it is only like 2 blocks away, and I know that, we always do that as much as we can, but I just kind of want it stated for the record that, you're going to reach out to that community and make sure that, for being such a high volume user, we want to make sure that they're bought into the idea as well.
Right, and I think I may have shared with you that I did tell them that we know how to do community engagement. We don't need them to do it for us. And it's our customers, it's our trust. So we would want to be very, have an intense process of show and tell and getting ideas from the community. And I don't want to leave a building sitting empty when we're done, so we'd have to figure out what to do with that. And I think it'd be good if we could recoup some revenue from the other buildings if we did decide to move. So there's a lot, it's a lot. It's so funny that on the heels of Coventry, here we are, you know, it's kind of ironic.
I would
but-
also,
Go ahead.
I'm interested in learning more about the project and hearing more about the organization. I would also want to know as far as their rent prices that they would be charging, and if any of those, you know, just to make sure that they're fair market, and if any of those units would be subsidized for certain
Right.
seniors.
Well, I think that's the kind of stuff they should tell us in their presentation. They did mention a number of places that we could go and visit or look at that they are running now. There's one they're building in Bedford Heights, I believe. And I will ask him for a list that we can share at a community meeting so that that's all above board. So I think the next step is to have them come and talk to us as a board. Then if we still think it's worth pursuing, we start getting some community members involved. And, you know, this could take a while, so.
They'd have to go through city processes for
Right,
zoning
and
and
the
all
city-
that.
Brian Anderson at the city is trying to serve as matchmaker, so I think he should be involved all the way through, because he can help ease the way for all of us if we decide to go for it. And we don't have to. I'm not convinced either way. I'm just being open and curious to see what they're offering. And I see pros and cons again. So let's find out more if it's okay with you. I'm assuming, I haven't heard anybody say absolutely not. So what I think I'll do, if I could either invite them to the September board meeting or to the October mini meeting, whichever. If you don't mind spending 10 minutes listening to them at the board meeting, I might as well get it going. If that's
Yeah,
okay.
I'm really curious to hear from them too.
If they could come to a committee meeting, that would be great. It's a little more casual. We have a little more back and forth,
Okay,
perhaps.
okay, is that okay with everybody?
What building is it again, Nancy? Is it across from the car wash?
There's nothing there now.
Like where
It's,
the old movie theater was.
well,
It was
no.
the old Refco or
It's on the
CVS?
corner- Yes.
It's right by,
Corner
yeah,
Greenwood and Noble,
That triangle.
Across from the,
across from the salt dome and the car wash.
Right. So it was the old Refco CVS building.
Yeah, there are eight parcels of land. It's a couple of acres.
Mhm.
And we both expressed interest in the city, so the city said, well, maybe you want to go together. And no one has, this is all just totally, just a discussion, nothing's been decided. We're just seeing if it's worth it to pursue it.
Yeah, well, I'm interested as well. I think multi-use is has been a progressive thing going on for at least the last 5 years, and we in Cleveland Heights always want to be on the edge of progressive. So I think it's definitely worth
Right.
looking into
I
further.
did share with you that the Waltz branch of Cleveland Public is doing this. And I also shared with you a beautiful illustration of a library in Chicago. But I found out that that building that I showed you cost $34 million. So that's about 10 times bigger. Well, not 10, maybe 5 times bigger than we should be thinking about. But I do think, yeah, I agree with you, Dana. I mean, it's worth finding out. And if we could save the taxpayers money and also have this nice synergy, maybe it would be okay.
Mhm.
Their plan was to make it retail at the bottom. So to alter it for us would not be so far for them to go. Probably just fewer walls. And retail isn't doing so hot these days, so maybe it's a better deal for them too. But there's so many details.
And last question, Nancy, when we were considering the church right there connected to or adjacent to the Noble Branch, what was
We
our
were-
main
We were,
reason?
we were hoping to at least add meeting room space.
Yeah,
And one of the ideas was to buy some land from the church and also maybe buy a house. But
Mhm.
that is shoehorning a lot into a small space that would cost us a lot more money to do. So it would be probably much more expensive to do our own project there than to join this other project, but there may be pros and cons again, depending on what we see. So,
yeah, I just wanted to recall the main reason why I thought it was storage
we
and meeting.
absolutely need meeting rooms, yes.
We were gonna build an addition on the north end to make the building more like an L then, to extend it on the north side and then.
Well, it was an idea. So I think again, having a community session with everyone and also having these people tell us what they want to tell us are both good ideas. So we'll get them invited to the October committee meeting. And we'll just go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have anything for the good of the order? Okay, we'll see you in 2 weeks then.
Thank you.
Take care.
Patty
Have a good
added-
night,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody. Thanks,
yeah,
everyone.
Patty added something
All right,
about,
everyone have a safe rest of the week.
Stay safe.
if you look at the chat, Patty added something about the app. Okay? All right, we'll find out more about that too. And
Okay, bye.
People are getting off.
I know, did you want to say something to me, Patty?
Oh, no, I just was saying like, yeah, it's in there. Let me know what else I can do. I'm happy to make phone calls or, dig into some stuff.
I think we'll call the gentleman at the city and see what's up.
Very good. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Okey-dokey.